And we welcome you today. You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom in the morning, where talk is real. Truth is in the talk. There's power in truth and, yes, Power Talks. Welcome to Power Talks. I'm Beth Ann, and say good morning to my partner, Melody Cedarstrom, as we co-host together to empower you with truth.
Well, good morning,
Melody.
Good morning to you, too, and good morning, listeners.
Well, go ahead.
I hope everyone had a great weekend. A quiet one?
I was going to say. Mm-hmm. That was my line. I was going to say that.
Well, you did not have a quiet weekend. I mean, after all, you had the Ham and Turkey Festival.
I did have the Ham and Turkey Festival. And it was, it was a hot day. It was really hot that day, up 90s. And there was a lot of people walking by. Nobody seemed to be spending money. Melody?
No.
Not anywhere. Not anywhere. I didn't think they were spending money. They weren't going by with big packages of stuff. And I had one person come by and talk. Well, I had more than one person come by and talk to me, but the one, she dropped a donation in I had a little vase there with flags in it on my table, and she said, "You need to have a donation jar out here." She's a listener to the show and loves the show, CSC Talk Radio, and so she was doing that. We had my banner up and all the good stuff, but the attraction to me was I borrowed the Bose system from my son. He has a sound system. He's a musician, and I played. I sang. I had another person come in and sing with me. She's trying to promote me a little bit. And we sang just patriotic songs and kind of stopped the crowd a little bit once in a while. And one little patriot elderly woman was in a wheelchair, and she made the man pushing her, which I assume was her husband, stop. And she listened, and as I sang God Bless America, it did the same verse twice, obviously, and I looked at her. She was clapping and kind of teared up, and I looked at her. I said, "Sing with me on this second one," and I could see her moving her mouth and singing. And we talk every day about the Antifa and the riots and the unhappy people in St. Louis and all this that's going on. But we have good patriots in this land. We really do, that love this country. And we just kind of have to remind them every now and then. And I played the show from 4th of July where I did the dramatic reading of the Declaration of Independence. And it all went pretty good. It was hot. I was glad to get home.
How long does the festival last?
Several hours. They start with a parade at 9:30 in the morning. Actually, I think they have like a 5K run. I didn't do that. At 7 in the morning, and then they have a parade at 9:30. And they have different events. They have an old car show, classic car show in one area of this town, and the street in front of me is the main street here in town, and it's High Street, and they keep that all. That's where all the vendors and everything are just set up. And it's right by the courthouse, and they block off those streets, so it's hard to get in and out. But it's a good day. They do a mile long, the world's longest turkey sub. That's coming from the Ham and Turkey Festival. Cargill, and they have the turkey and the great big bread subbed out, and they make the sub and cut it up and start selling it. It's just a lot of fun. They have washerboard tournaments and disc golf tournaments. And they have had some volleyball tournaments. I don't know if they did yesterday or not. But local people put on mini concerts. I have done that many, many years. I haven't done that. I did not do that this year. I just sang a song or two every once in a while. I'd break out in a song at my booth, but they do that, and they have kind of the local kids, the high school band and stuff. They are in the parade, and it's a local thing, but yet it grows, it gets big, and it's. But I thought this year I thought people weren't spending any money. It just didn't look to me like they were spending money.
Well, it is a sign of the times. I mean, people are having less and less disposable income. They get out, they go to places where it's not going to cost them that much. They might get a bite to eat or something like that, but they're not spending it on, because all reports show us that retail sales are down. It all show us that credit card debt is as high as it was back prior to the Great Recession. So people are strapped. They're using their credit cards for their needs instead of their play. And so disposable income is very limited. There's just, it sounds great. Stock markets are hitting record highs, and everybody thinks that and things have been better than what it was back in, after the recession. I get that, but you have to see why, and that's the problem. Why? Why did things get better? Because of the $1 trillion of stimulus. And what happens when these ultra low rates begin to rise? Personally, I don't think they can rise. We talked about the 10-year yield. If it passes 2.60, it's over. The debt can't be serviced. The rates get too high. You have Janet Yellen. There is a meeting this week with Janet Yellen to see about whether or not she's going to raise rates. The consensus is she won't. They'll probably keep that until December. Central bankers are in a bind. They see, all the numbers that show that our economy is doing better, but then again, it shows that there's no inflation. So they can't do anything, and they are between a rock and a hard place, They can't let rates rise because that will undo the economy. And the big question was President Trump, going to keep Janet Yellen. Her position is up, I believe, in February. And during the campaign, I think if everyone remembers, President Trump would condemn Yellen as a puppet for Obama. But yet he has just recently suggested he'd consider rehiring Yellen for another term, saying she's done a good job. I don't think she's done a good job, but I think Bernanke did a good job. She's just a position. I mean, she really is just there. And I don't think he would replace her, unless the stock markets are coming undone. But during the campaign, if anybody remembers, Mr. Trump did say a lot of things about how our economy is in a bubble and we should have a gold standard and everything else that a conservative believes. But as he became president, things are changing a little bit. So that's the big thing, is another rate hike coming. He also has to replace the second person under Yellen, and that's Fisher. He resigned, and so Mr. Trump does have he could replace two of the top Federal Reserve people, Yellen and Fisher. So I think he'll replace Fisher. I think he'll keep Yellen, but we'll have to see what's going on at that point in time in February. If the markets are coming undone, he might have to do both. But
there's a lot can happen between now and February, isn't there?
I don't think she can handle any type of economic calamity like Bernanke did, and she certainly isn't a Alan Greenspan. And
if he considers her a puppet, maybe he thinks he can pull the strings better with her than he could someone else. I don't know.
Well, what's interesting is he was up to removing her, replacing her when her term was up, and then Ivanka had a meeting with her in July, and the scuttlebutt was shortly thereafter, a week after their meeting, all of a sudden President Trump changed his mind. So, fake news, real news, interesting news, does it matter news?
Gossip.
And it's interesting, does it mean anything? Well, I think when it comes to Ivanka, it does mean something. And, I think she has a lot of pull with her father.
She does, but she didn't want her dad to pull out of the Paris Agreement, and he did. So she has the pull, but he's still got a mind of his own, so I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
Yeah, but you know what? It takes 3 years to pull out of that accord, and there's scuttlebutt now that Trump is looking to avoid the withdrawal, depending on who you read and what you read, or make it an easier withdrawal and so forth. And we do know he's moved by visual situations. I mean, we saw that with little babies after the gassing in Syria and so forth. He makes his decisions on that. And now after you have two huge hurricanes, you have Harvey and you have Irma, has that, the pictures, the visuals, his association close up. Will that change his views of the Paris Climate Accord? We have another one coming down the pike, Maria.
Yes, Maria.
We're going to be affected, I guess, tomorrow with some high winds on the East Coast as Jose passes us. It doesn't look like it's going to make any type of landfall, but it will mess up the beaches. And, of course, it might make landfall up there around Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard or someplace. I'm not quite sure yet, but we are to get stronger winds tomorrow. So here on the East Coast,
what category is it? Or
I think it's just a one.
Okay, I didn't know.
And I think by the time it gets up to the islands, it'll just be a tropical storm. But we're supposed to have sustained 25, 35 mile an hour winds for a day.
We had just a little rain yesterday, and we need a little more rain because we've hit a dry spell, and I mean it is dry. The dust from the gravel roads and all around it's just unreal that it's so dry so quickly. It seems like we had all that rain in the spring, and they're selling watermelons like crazy. I mean, the watermelon crops just did an abundance. They can't even sell them all. They've got so much watermelon, and there you go. You got too much of the product. When you get the rain, the watermelon does well. My brother-in-law, I've got a brother-in-law that has a truck patch, and he's just got watermelons out the ears, just everywhere. But watermelon's good. Love watermelon.
I love watermelon.
I love so much. I should ship you a watermelon.
I love watermelon. Something else that's going on this week, we'll have Mr. Trump speaking at the UN.
Yes, I was going to say, that's happening this week, isn't it?
I believe he speaks tomorrow. And we'll just have to see, what he has to say about that. I'm sure all eyes will, I'm sure it'll have a lot to do with North Korea, but all eyes will be on him.
Well, and we had a lot of rioting in St. Louis this weekend. They were upset with the judge's decision with the officer that had shot and killed a black man as he was running away from the cops. He first rammed into him. Anyway, they were not happy with that decision. They didn't think justice was done, and they were blocking roads, and they kept it fairly under control, if that's possible with the riots. It did not get out of hand like back in the Ferguson day. They tried to block major highways and in front of even the hospitals and such, and they had a time keeping that clear, but it didn't get as bad as it could have and has in the past. So we were excited that it didn't do that, but it's always disappointing when you see these riots taking place and how unhappy people are. Yesterday was Constitution Day.
Yes, it was.
And so many people don't know. I actually printed off constitutions and gave them away on Saturday at the Ham and Turkey Festival. Some people didn't want it. They didn't want to carry it. They didn't want to carry it around. And others took it gladly. And she said, I haven't read that since high school. I said, you need to get it out and read it. So anyway, I handed it to her. And the Constitution Day, I was sitting here reading from the American Minute this morning of Bill Federer's, and the excitement and the passion and compassion that our founding fathers had when they wrote this and came to an agreement on it. And it was a long haul to get the Constitution because they argued lots of different points, and but it was, you look at the pride they had and you think, where is that today? People don't get that because they're not taught that. I hear the music. When we come back, I want to talk just a little bit. Melody laughed at me, but I want to talk just a little bit about I don't know if he's 10 or 11. I've heard two different ages. Year-old that decided to mow. He wanted to mow the White House lawn and visit with the president, meet the president.
Did you have to share that I chuckled a little bit?
She did chuckle. She did chuckle.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Have you seen the Left Behind movies? Have you read the Left Behind fictional book series? Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin, because they see the world stage shaping to fulfill what they have been led to believe is sound biblical interpretation, a left behind rapture scenario. This false view of prophecy is reinforced in the mind, not only of its adherents, but also includes those who have been merely exposed to the specific media. Is it possible that false prophecy can be fulfilled? The rapture theories have always been in dispute. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib disputes have risen up in exclusively evangelical circles of recent history, so that when true believers don't suddenly disappear, this element will easily go by the wayside when all see a new Jewish temple begin to be built. Will this be part of the great delusion that will come upon the whole earth? It seems that this great prophetic delusion has already overcome practically the entire American evangelical and Christian world. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. To learn more, visit crosstheborder.org. That's CROSS, crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. And before I get to the issue that I wanted to talk about with the little boy mowing the yard, Melody wanted to share what she did this weekend.
Well, you were talking about St. Louis and all the violence and how unhappy all these people were. And I mean, they are the one side of the spectrum. But on the other side, I live close to Ocean City. My family lives in Ocean City. And beginning on Thursday through Sunday, they have an event every year. They've had it for years, Bike Fest. So you have thousands and thousands of motorcycles coming to town. Harleys, Hondas, it's the other side of the spectrum. And they had a concert. It leads up to, a concert Saturday evening. I went with a friend, and it was Leonard Skinner. And in this area, it's all standing room, and they have big tents up. And we estimated there was probably about 7,000 people there. And I can't stand in one spot, so I have to move around. And you would think with that many people standing, people don't want to move. It's hot. They've been drinking. They get
Yeah.
They were the
little testy.
Little testy. They were so polite. It was fantastic. no one said one word, and everybody just kind of moved out of your way as you were making your way through. And we moved for pretty much a whole hour because I just can't stand in one spot that long. So I have to constantly be moving. And it was just compared to this situation where you'd think there'd be a little bit more with the heat and the drinking, maybe a little more disturbances in a place of bikers. And, you think of bikers as, they're a great group of people. And most of them, the majority of them are patriotic.
Yes, they are. Very much so.
So, but there were I'm sure there were skirmishes around the city and stuff like that. But in this arena, in the inlet, with so many people, it was just a beautiful thing. It was very, very nice, and such a opposite of what we saw in Chicago. And most of the people there in the inlet were white. So I know that's not an issue, but it's just an interesting observation.
Well, the bikers, they are very patriotic.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. It's just...
it slipped out, I know.
It's an observance, though.
It's that privileged part of you. The
deplorable part of me.
It's deplorable. We'll talk about that later. Not your deplorable, but in general. But the honor flights that they do, they are escorted by the bikers.
Mm-hmm.
And last summer, my brother, who's a Vietnam vet, he's a Marine, he's disabled, I'll probably get choked up, he got to go on the honor flight. And we were there when they brought him home. Now, when the soldiers from Vietnam came back home, they weren't well received. They were spit on, ridiculed, had trouble getting jobs. But 242 bikers escorted them from St. Louis, where they got off the airplane and got on the buses, the charter buses, to Columbia, Missouri. That was loud. They try to block the highway as best they can. The highway patrol is involved, and they actually give these guys an escort. And they did the same thing because they go to D.C. to the memorials and to other places, and they do the same thing when they get off the plane there. They escort them. And it's just very, very moving. And, of course, you have the guardians, the angels, that go to certain funerals to block the ugly people from protesting at the funerals of some of these soldiers. So anyway, it's they are a unique group of people.
And it's interesting. It's interesting because when I was young, when you think of bikers, it was all the Hells Angels, and it was and these bad. They were always considered the rough part of society and dangerous. And I'm sure there were groups that were. We heard the stories. We knew how you had to be initiated in order to get into the Hells Angels and so forth. Some like the gangs of today, but over the years, and they certainly have aged and mellowed, they do they do a lot of great things.
Oh, absolutely.
They do fantastic things for this country and for the support of the veterans, and so I just wanted to make a point of that. I was very impressed. Very impressed.
That was awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing the positive, because we need to hear the positive.
And yes.
The reason I wanted to share this about this little boy that wanted to mow the White House lawn was because of something on Twitter. And I didn't tell Melody this whenever we were discussing what I wanted to talk about. But there were all kinds of ridicules and insults about him being allowed to do this, and what it said for child labor and the wage laws and all this and all that.
Grief.
And yes, good grief indeed. But the letter that he wrote to the president is, "Dear Mr. President, it would be my honor to mow the White House lawn some weekend for you. Even though I'm only 10, I would like to show the nation that young people like me are ready for. I admire your business background and have started my own business. I have been mowing my neighbor's lawn for some time. Please see the attached flyer. He sent us a little flyer for mowing business. I don't have it on this, but here's a list of what I have, and you are free to pick whatever you want: power mower, push mower, and weed whacker. I can bring extra fuel for the power mower and charged batteries for the weed whacker. I will do this at no charge. Sincerely, Frank. He signed his name, and he made a kind of a little boo-boo and scratched it out and then did it again, Frank. He's 10 years old, and I raised a bunch of boys. And they mowed the yard. In fact, my mother said anybody with 5 sons shouldn't have to carry in groceries or mow a yard. They mowed our yard. They did not get paid for that, but they mowed the neighbors' yards. And there were some little old widow ladies in the neighbor. Then they would give them fresh cookies, or they would give them a Coke, give them a can of pop. And they mowed yards. I had one that had, when he was a little older, he earned his bicycle. He had a bicycle, but he wanted a new bicycle. And he did a paper route. Now, this isn't child labor. This is teaching those young men, those young boys, how to be men, how to work. They now have, and I'm going to brag on my boys a little, they have good work ethics. They work hard. They can take a punch. They're not snowflakes. Of course, they punched each other enough growing up, verbally and otherwise. But they are gentle. When I watch them hold their babies, it moves me. And that's how I made a lot of mistakes. I'm not the perfect mother, let me tell you. I was a screamer. I felt more like a Marine sergeant than I was a dawdling little mommy. But I'm very proud of them. And they mowed the yards, and they took care of others. And they were kind of the ones that took on the bullies in school. If the bullies were picking on somebody else, they'd of course, every now and then they were the ones that got picked on, and the older brother would come to their rescue. But this young man mowing the yard, and it was really cute, the little video. It showed the president was up behind him walking, and he didn't even see him. He's got the push mower, and I reminded my boys, if they're hardly big enough to move the push mower, when they're that age. And I've got grandsons that are doing that now, and my son, Jason, sent me a picture of his boy when he was pushing the mower. He says, "Who's this remind you of?" Because I used to laugh. Jason loved to mow the yard. That's my third son. But he was younger than the 2 older ones, obviously. And when he pushed, he had to use both hands, and he stuck his little rump out, and he was just walking that mower across. It was just the funniest thing to see. But kudos to this young man.
Absolutely.
And I'm so excited that the White House let him come in there and mow that yard. I really hope they gave him $8. I know he was doing it for free, but he charges $8. I'm thinking that's a bigger yard than he's probably used to mowing. So at least give him lunch. But he got to meet the president and shake his hand. He gave him a high five while he was mowing and went right back to work.
I think this is the kind of story that we should see more of.
Oh,
and instead of all day long, what everyone is going to be talking about is the Emmys. And to me, it shouldn't get any press whatsoever. They should just bury it. It was a disgusting display of political attacks constantly. It was typical Hollywood. And, it was, most of it didn't even I didn't watch it. I was just reading, some articles about it and so forth.
I didn't watch it.
I can't stand to watch any of those shows. And I'm reading some of the comments and headlines and so forth, and it's like, why would anybody bother watching these programs, all these award programs and so forth, when they just display and spit out such hatred? And yet they claim that it's always the other side that shows such hatred, and I just don't get it. But this is all you're going to hear about. All day long.
I quit
Why
watching
give them the credit? Why give them any credit? Particularly,
I don't watch any awards. I don't watch any award shows.
I don't either.
I just don't get off on that. I'm okay if they want to give each other awards, but I don't get off on that, and I don't. You know, Hollywood, a long time ago, I quit listening to them for any advice. They go through so many rehabs for their drug and alcohol addiction, and their children can't cope with things because they don't teach their children to go mow a yard.
Right.
They don't teach them, you know, the little widow lady, she's just going to give you cookies or a Coke. You don't have to take money from her. Just mow her yard. You know, they don't teach them things like that.
It's not any different than the NFL getting political. It's like that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
We watched none this weekend. None.
Nope. Me not. We have a caller.
We do. We have Arthur from Illinois. Arthur, how are you today?
Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Just
good. How are you, Arthur?
Doing all right. I love your show. I really do, man. And I'm going to promote it for you guys like I used to do to the Power Hour. I'm going to promote you guys.
Thank you very much.
So I have a friend who makes custom shirts. I'm going to make a shirt, or if it's okay with you guys, and I'm going to have him make it up custom. I'm going to wear it everywhere.
Wow.
With Power Hour on it? I mean, with Power
Talk.
No, sorry.
With Power Talk. No, I got...
That was a Freudian slip, you know. Oh, boy, we're going to get letters.
No, but I have a quick question for Melody. Melody, I have a 20-year annuity in Federal Reserve note. They owe me 3 years on it. They owe me somewhere around 80 grand, something like that. And it was a contract over 20 years. What do you suggest how to get this out of this Federal Reserve note thing? My lawyer kind of did me wrong here. Do you have any suggestions of how I could deal with that? What do you suggest?
Well, I can't give advice, but it's funny. We all have an opinion, right?
Right. You can give me an opinion. There you go. That's legal, right? Okay.
You know, I'll just talk about annuities. I'm not a fan of annuities. You get so many annuities are sold as CDs. People think they can get their money out at any time. Well, you can, but you have huge penalties depending on the length of time that you had the annuity. So again, I look at items like annuities. It depends on how long have you had the contract?
It was, let's see, 2003, I believe is one.
Well, yeah. It's your penalty. They're all different, so it's hard to say exactly without getting a little more involved in the annuity itself. So they all vary on term lengths and so forth. So that's something you'd have to learn. My idea, what I understand, is why have fiat currencies? Because they're all going to be affected with the stock market. You're going to have a fiat currency that's going to continue to lose value, and it doesn't have that much further to go until it loses 100% of its value. We all know that we have financial problems in this country. We all know we have too much debt that can't be paid. I was just reading this morning how the Bureau of International Settlements came out and said, there's $13 trillion unaccounted for of derivatives that is not even included. It's underreported. The global debt is underreported by $13 trillion. So, wow. I know it. So, let me ask you, what do you think you should do?
Shoot myself in the head.
No, you don't want to do that.
Wrong answer.
No, I'm just being facetious, but no, it's a real problem I have because if this dang economy collapses, I can lose my home over this crap.
Well, then you know what to do.
I was electrocuted in 2000. I lost my hands, and I'm a drummer. I'm a musician. I'm an engineer. And it was a very bad thing that happened to me. I got scars in the back of my eyeballs. I'm going blind now, and it's a really sad thing what happened to me. This happened in Indiana. I took a 7,500-volt surge off a primary power line on an antenna installation. The current jumped off the power lines, and I almost got killed. I was in hospital for 3 months, but I'm a $750,000 hospital bill, and I only got $400,000 for my hands. You know that? Big deal.
Wow.
Yeah, big deal. And I'm gonna be suing this lawyer because he stole the evidence and he kept my case file for over 7 years. That's statute of limitations. So I'm gonna be going after this guy with the Supreme Court. I'm working on that now, but. He made the deal with these people behind closed. He had my girlfriend, who's my power of attorney, signing papers behind closed doors without me. And I'm going to sue this guy, but you know how long that takes, you know.
Yeah.
And I basically told this lawyer, I said, look, well, this is over 20 years. Well, anything could happen. What if they go out of business? Well, then you're going to, I'm like, well, I don't want to do this. He said, well, I already made the deal. I'm like, buddy, it's not your deal. You're working for me. What are you talking about? Yeah. So he's been slapping me on. Well, so now I'm going to go to the Supreme Court about this, Tom, and I'm going to try to get his license yanked because what he did to me, this was in Indiana. That's not a very good place to get hurt. There's no money there,
Oh. Well, now you have to make the decision on how you want to protect the currency that you have, or the fiat dollars that you have. And I do. But you have
to have control of it, and it's annuity. You're not in full control of the damn thing. That's the problem. No. It was a contract. But
you can cancel the contract.
That's what I want to do, but the lawyer's not working with me. That's the problem I'm having. He's a scum.
Fire him.
Fire him.
Go get another one.
Well, basically, I'm going to report him to the Supreme Court. I've got some documents about his. His butt's in a sling as far as I'm concerned. He stole the evidence, kept my case file. That's against the law. You can't do that. So, but anyway, I just wanted to ask you that, Melody. Thanks for your information there. It's always a pleasure to hear you fine ladies every morning, man. It's really refreshing, and I really appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you, Martin. We appreciate you.
Yes. And one other thing, I was wrong about what I said about the planet. The star, that poor star I was talking about, supposed to be coming by in October. Next month, not this month. You were right, Melody. The planets are supposed to line up this month. I think it's a sign that the star's coming. That's what I'm just expecting. And I believe it's in Revelation. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be real interesting. If we make it through the rest of this year, I'll be surprised.
I hear you.
Financially.
Yeah.
Financially.
Yeah,
I'm really scared about this. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm scared about what's about to go down. It's really scary. It really is.
Well, Melody likes to say, don't be scared, be prepared. So, and I know you're trying.
Yeah, but it takes money. Lots of it, too, I bought a generator, and I got some storable food. I did at least do that, and I'm probably going to work on some medicine or whatever, but it's just me and Michelle, and we're working on it. So, all right, ladies, I'm going to let you go. It was a pleasure talking to you. Ladies, have a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There are things that people can do to prepare for various situations, and I know I shouldn't bring this on the air because we really haven't made a final decision yet, but, we're looking for water filters, that straws that you can easily carry with you. And I think what made me even more a believer in that is when you look at the water situation down after Irma. There was no water to be found.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And yet there was water everywhere, but you couldn't drink it. So what if if there's a little portable type even straw with a little container that you can take, you can use any water if it filters out, 99%. So it's something Beth and I have been looking into, and hopefully we can bring that to the listeners here in the not-too-distant future. So
what we're doing is we're looking for advertisers and sponsors for the show to help us keep Power Talks on the air, because we do believe it's refreshing, as Arthur said. That's the word they use for CSC Talk Radio as well, and I'm certain they do for your survival, financial survivor, because we're different. We bring some of the same, as she was using the word today, scuttlebutt. We bring some of the same news to you, but we try to get it on a different slant, and we try to get you to call in and give your opinions. How refreshing that the forgotten men and women of this world are allowed to talk. It's 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. But if you're interested and you would like to advertise or sponsor the show, give Melody a call in her office, because she's kind of the one that's heading this up. I'm just kind of along for the ride. I love Melody, and I love to talk. Can you believe that? So give her a call at 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188. Melody, also they can send us a letter or a mail. What is the post office box again?
They can mail it to P.O. Box. You could put Power Talks in care of DGST, P.O. Box 276, Berlin, Maryland 21811. That's Power Talks, in care of DGST, P.O. Box 276, Berlin, Maryland 21811.
All right. Then we should be getting letters.
We should. And calls. We should be getting calls.
Absolutely. Call 717-300-1218.
And if you want to email us, you can use powertalks@yahoo.com. powertalks@yahoo.com. Very simple, very, just write it down. You can memorize it. And it's funny, I hear people, I talk to listeners of the program, Financial Survival, 20 years ago. They'll call me, and they'll tell me, I still remember your phone number. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't find your business card. And then I thought, well, I'm just getting, it's 1-800-375-4188. And it's, you know, it's humbling. It's,
right.
It's very warming to know that people watch you. And I have listeners that say, oh, I've been listening to you for years. And so we know there's a lot of you out there. We know there's a ton of you out there. So thank you. Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. Thank you for your support. Well, going into the bad news, sorry, we went from good news to bad news. But I think this is, I only want to bring this up because it's evidence of how the elite and some of these on the left think of you and I and our listeners. And it is abhorrent how they talk, how they behave, how they slant things, and they don't like anybody who voted for Donald Trump or who might be supportive of any of his programs, even if they didn't vote for him. They just plain don't like you. They don't like me. But this is coming from the Daily Caller, and it was an MSNBC panel, and they laugh at pictures of working-class white voters. And it's always they're the ones who always bring up the color. Working-class white voters. And they were laughing at how nobody ever asks them about Trump's racist. And that they just get mollycoddled with their questions when they interview these as they call them, these white working class voters, as if the working class American are all white, and as if the working class American is something beneath everyone else. The way they talk is just, it is deplorable. The way they talk, they call everybody else deplorable. But that really bothers me that they do that. And I hear music. I can't believe I hear music already. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. The working class, the deplorables, we're the ones that give these guys jobs. They don't seem to realize that. 717-300-1218, and Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it. Nations have fought for it. It has been traded. It has been borrowed. It has been purchased. It has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet. or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom. It should be Melody Cedarstrom and Beth Ann in the morning. Your calls are welcome. We're in the final segment of this morning's show here on Monday. It is Monday. We hope you had a great weekend, and we're ready to tackle a new week. 717-300-1218 is the number to call, 717-300-1218. Yesterday was Constitution Day. I think we mentioned that earlier this week. And if anybody's interested in a lot of history, things that were said, things that were done throughout the event of Constitution as it was being put together, you can go to the AmericanMinute.com, Bill Federer, or you can just do a search on that, whether it's Google or some other Bing or whatever search engine you use. Just go to the American Minute or Bill Federer and bring that up. I noticed on the document, they try to tell us we're not a Christian nation and we weren't founded in such a manner, but it says, done on the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord 1787. And, it always interests me how they all begin with that and end with that. Every state constitution as well as the U.S. Constitution, and yet the left keeps screaming, we're not that kind of a nation. The Moms March is coming up, Melody. Did you know that? Yes. I'm sorry. The Moms March is coming up. That's one I've talked about before on CSC Talk Radio. That's this weekend, and it's really in Nebraska, but it's everywhere for moms who can't come and march. So they've got it online. But this is the March for Life dinner that's coming up in it's coming up in January. I said coming up here, and I thought it was. But it's the Life Rose Dinner. And Tim Tebow's mom, Pat, is going to be the keynote speaker at that. That should be very interesting. Let me see where that's at. I kind of went through that. It says it's the 36th annual Rose Dinner. It'll be held... Well, it doesn't give the details here. University. No, it doesn't give the details. Tells a little bit about Pam Tebow. Of course, she was pregnant and chose not to have an abortion. And then we have Tim Tebow out of that. And, of course, he was big in the NFL. He also took a lot of hits because of his faith in the NFL and still does. But anyway, I thought that was interesting that she's going to be the keynote speaker at that.
I always believe it's Tim Tebow's faith.
Oh, amazing, isn't it?
That the NFL was his issue. And because he seemed to be a fairly good player. And he certainly had a lot of bad publicity when he would kneel and pray and give thanks and so forth. And
yeah, he took a knee, but for a different reason.
But for a different reason, absolutely. And and that was his problem with the NFL. Well, that was the NFL's problem with him. And it's I really liked Tim Tebow. So
the dinner is in Washington. It doesn't give the date is January 19th, and it's in Washington, but it doesn't give the place on that particular article that I have. I kind of have to chuckle in disgust when the talking heads are going over these people that have lied to us. And the one I'm referring to right now is Susan Rice. She lied about her role in the Obama administration unmasking scandal. That we all know now. She said both things. So one of them can't be true. So one of them's a lie. But I have to laugh in disgust when these talking heads says she needs to be questioned under oath. Do you think someone that lies as much as she does, or Hillary Clinton does, or James Comey, do you think it matters at all to them that they're under oath when they tell you something?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I was asking you. It wasn't rhetorical. I was asking your opinion. Do you think that it really matters to these people? They have no integrity, whether they're under oath or not. They've already purged themselves. They were, Comey was under oath when he was in those hearings and said what he said. Do you think it really matters to them whether they lie to the American people or to Congress or whoever else is listening?
I think we're in a point in time in our history where I believe both sides have a tendency to stretch the truth, but certainly they're the most obvious, and lying has become acceptable in our society. And I mean, I talk to people where I was taught, oh my gosh, you just didn't lie. If my mother even thought we were lying, whether we were or we weren't, we'd be in trouble. She used to think that she could tell what we were thinking, and if it was a lie, she'd get that, or the look on her face, get that look off your face, But in today's society, it's little lies are acceptable, and bigger lies are covered up. And so I have no doubt that there's lies going on in order to get them off the hot seat, so to speak, and to cover up. I believe politicians are bought and paid for, I believe with that they have to lie. Whether they want to or not, they're almost forced into not telling the truth on various situations. It's a society that we live in, and it's very difficult to find the truth. It makes it harder to find the truth, and that's why what we try to do on these programs with financial survival, we bring the truth about our finances and where we're headed, and that a lot that we see, just because the stock markets are hitting record highs, doesn't mean that all is well in financial land. It isn't. And you have to see what moves us there. What's the truth as to why we're hitting all these record highs? And it goes the same with, when they testify on the Hill in front of the Senate and so forth in these various congressional interviews and investigations. They lie. No doubt about it.
Well, my point was that they act like getting them up there under oath is going to make a difference, and I don't think it would make a difference in what they say. I don't think they have any qualms with telling one more lie, and so that doesn't mean that I don't think they ought to be, interrogated under oath. But it's just like, do you really think that they're going to tell the truth?
But you know what, Beth? It isn't the problem that they're not telling the truth. The problem is those that are asking the questions.
Yeah, they're not truthful either.
They're not asking, they're not holding the person answering the questions accountable for their answers. And they know before going. It's all orchestrated. Everything that we see, and a lot of these,
they should get the Emmy Awards, right?
They really should.
Yeah, they should get the Emmys. They've done a great job of acting.
They get lists of questions that are going to be asked. You really think these are surprise questions? That they're going to be asked? Of course not. So really, I hold more accountable to those asking the questions.
Well, I think that's a good point.
They should be drilling, and because they know when the lies are being told, and they just let them off with, all right, next. it's certainly disturbing.
You're absolutely right. And, we just keep hearing all these things, and we believe in power talks, we believe in truth, and sometimes, Melody and I talk before we go on the air, and sometimes it's very difficult to sort through all the articles, all the news that we gather, and see which one's the truth. I was sharing one with her, and we won't give it on the air because we're going to look into it a little bit more. And she said, "Are you sure that one's right?" And I didn't have the source on it because I had to copy and paste it because it wouldn't print from its website. And it's hard to sort through the truth, to find the truth. It's hard to sort through and figure out what is really the truth in the matter, and we got to read between the lines. And Melody, you're very good at that with the financial issues of this time, and I really thank you for all that you do with that. I know it's a lot of work.
I learned over the years when it comes to finances, you really have to, all the reports, all the stats that they give, you really do have to read between all the lines. You have to read past the headlines. Because only when you read between the lines and you do your own research do you really come up with the truth. Absolutely. And the truth of the matter is we're out of time.
The truth of the matter is we hear music. We picked a song for the ending of the show that's called Freedom. Free. Because we want to be free to speak the truth and Power Talks. Have a good afternoon, Melody.
You too.
Hope all the listeners have a great afternoon. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
Bye-bye.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.